law books, it says ancient and modern when you go into dictionaries. Common law is distinguished from equity law, as it is a body of rules and principles, written or unwritten, which are fixed and immutable authority, and which must be applied to controversies rigorously and in their entirety, and cannot be modified to suit the peculiarities of a specific case or colored by any judicial discretion, and which rests confessedly upon the custom or statute, as distinguished from any claim to ethical superiority. This is based in the ancient principle of African culture, where the honor of your mothers and your fathers are related to your heritability and to your rights of your land and your estates, etc. And therefore, the common law is based on customs and traditions of your ancient mothers and fathers from time immemorial, distinguished from Roman law, which has been operating at North America under a color of authority, and exercised with owners and beneficiaries and fiduciaries and trustees doing business as the corporate United States of America, which was dissolved in 1861 and is in fact defunct, but has been resurrected and has been operating unlawfully on the land since 1861, and those processes have continued to this day without most of the people of the land being aware that the whole platform of operations of the states of subsidiary franchises are in fact criminal operations, and this is and was and is the sources of all of your wars and all of your poverty and all of the fake platforms of genocide that have been hidden and veiled under the fake race and prejudice platform, which is a fake platform created by three-letter agencies who have been still exercising Inquisition Bulla operations of unum sanctum, dum diversus, intercatera divina, etc., against the Aboriginal people of the land, the true Americans, the copper complexion people, disguised under other fake terms, etc., and continues to this day. However, for the sake of those Moors who do honor their mothers and fathers and who intend to be active and not passive, will speak up and tell the truth to themselves, to the people, and to the imposters who have been pretending to be Americans, and who have been pretending to be legitimate government, but in fact who have actually been entertaining and exercising false judicial powers and civil powers on the land in violation of international law, and actually have been on a genocide campaign against the people, the natural people of the land, with both their nom-de-guerre, straw man constructs, their bottomry instruments, whether you're talking about the marriage licenses, the driver's licenses, the birth certificates, etc., which have been bolstering their stock market, particularly since 1862, commonly known as U.S. Treasury bonds, etc., which have caused problems in the treasuries of all the nations of the earth around the world today. And in truth, except in a few past instances, has not been challenged by the people, but now you start seeing it take place. And I'm saying to you that this has much to do with the politics that you see taking place around the world, with the economic collapses going on with these criminals known as the United States Corporation Company, that are defunct and are still exercising under de facto and color of law operations. That's where all your economic problems have their origin, and that's where they are, and those people are your problem. Now, that's the truth. That's the record. And so your original Article Amendment 13 was covered up with what is known as your 14th and 15th Amendment. And this is why you do not see that in the history books or in your social studies books in the school systems, because the Satanist organization set up, known as the General Education Board, 1902, by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, promoting animal husbandry under the guise of education, have deleted it with the support of and the help of de facto operators pretending to be Congress and Senate of a de facto political platform which was dissolved in 1861. And here we are with the problems that they have created, and usually arguing the wrong arguments with the wrong concepts. Now I'm going to read page 10, and then we'll take some, conversation. Because you have to know some of this history that has been hidden from you in order to even understand some of the things that you see active Moors doing that have been misrepresented by a de facto press operating in the name of the United States, etc. Consular. A consular is a minister. As for the consular, and about some details about his or her political position, authority is given affirmatively, and see that such established law and due process remedies are observed and applied in matters of the nation's citizens. And so the consular authority includes his or her responsibility to keeping abreast with and assuring that diversity rules are observed and maintained, and that such case claims, transcripts, or other related documents are secured for the record, and that all reports are made to their superiors. This helps to preserve the integrity of the law. And the consular assures that proper law measures and proper jurisdictional classifications are maintained and carried into force, etc., within the various venues of the laws that govern nations, constitutions, treaties, and international law treaties. Likewise, are instruments that are binding upon all government officials, binding upon their assigns, binding upon their employees, and binding upon their contractors, etc. And one must always remember that a treaty is the established law of the land, just as the Constitution of the nation is. And thus all treaties are conjoined as one with the established law of the land. So when you're talking about Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the treaties of the United States with the Moroccan Empire, those obligations and duties are preserved and are enforced. And the fact that you have de facto criminal hybrid Europeans who overthrew the Republic in treaty with the United States and with Morocco, operating at North America, have been creating and committing criminal activities, particularly since 1861, and have accelerated as the decades have gone by. Nevertheless, the obligations still exist, and the only way that the Moorish Americans lose their nationality is by agreeing to be naturalized under that 14th Amendment fraud that has been promoted by all your fake Negro marching, praying civil rights leaders, pretending that they were bringing people of African descent, the true copper complexion people of the land, into the political platform of an occupying force that was not only criminal, but has been dissolved politically, but yet they're still operating. So you must understand that, and you must understand original Article Amendment 13 declared that descendants of Africans can never be U.S. citizens. So you can dump that on every front. And for those fraudulent persons, people, men and women among our own, who have been promoting that we are U.S. citizens, etc., they know that they've been lying, and I've just shown you the congressional records to prove that. It's never been a secret, however, it's not been taught. And of course, I've been teaching this stuff since 82 in general, and most of these are my notes from 84, 85, compiled, etc. And even when this was put together, a lot of my original manuscripts was actually edited out because I already knew that I would have opposition. And I also knew, due to the patterns in reading the congressional records, particularly when I went into congressional records and looking at the history of American religions and looking at the history of the Moorish Divine and National Movement and the infiltration made by three-letter agencies into the Moorish Divine and National Movement and the compromises that were made and not being told to the people. Some of you who are in the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America hear about the great sell-off, but you notice that the people never give you political details. I just showed you some of them, and that's not opinion. That's the record. And then a lot of people who are taking positions in the Moorish Divine and National Movement and the Moorish Science Temple of America has actually been some of my greatest critics and trolls who always knew this information, but they knew if they taught this, many of them would be exposed for the traitors that they are. But I also want to say this to you. I commend the brothers and sisters in the Moorish Science Temple of America or around the land who have maintained a sense of integrity for the original cause and purpose of the Moorish Divine and National Movement and support of our illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the enforcement of that Constitution, although it's been breached by persons and people and corporate entity operators on a constant basis. And I suggest for those of you who have limited information about the illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali to read and do the research on what is known as one of the established documents of purpose and cause, and it's known as the warning by the prophet for the nations, etc. And you will see within that document, established document, the cause for the movement, and you'll see it's harmonic with the enforcement of the Constitution. And of course, when you know the true history of the evolution of the Constitution for the United States, you already know that those principles go far beyond that, and they're actually ancient. Not only are they fatwa and come from Moorish law, they're aligned with allodial principles and not with the feudal abuses of the people that you have been experiencing. And the fact that many people who claim to be conscious pretend that they don't know that part of the major movement of the Moorish Divine and National Movement is the enforcement of the Constitution for the United States, which would include the treaties, etc., and all obligations and duties of persons claiming to be authorities for the United States are enforced, and that has never changed. So I wanted to present that because I see a lot of people being confused when you see hybrid Europeans operating for the defunct United States corporation, and their corporations had actually been converting people's right to travel into crimes in violation of treaty and constitution, and in violations of obligations that already exist. But it also shows you that they have no authority to be operating on the land, and yet that continues. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So what you do, the people of the land, the true Americans and nationals, and the people who have been loyal to the treaty and the Constitution for the United States, there's your duty and your responsibility to enforce that Constitution, knowing that these people are de facto, and to stop pretending that you don't know that they're operating de facto. That does not excuse any improper activities by any Moor, etc., for they are obligated by treaty and those principles that pre-existed, etc., in Muslim law, which you'll see from the Honesty Confederation, or you might call Equa Confederation, that was adopted for these operations for judicial civil powers to be executed under a constitution at the Maghreb, etc. That is no secret. And also the established ancient principles of the Renapi tribes in the area of Shakamaksan, where the republic's standard of government or capitolium was established. That would be Shakamaksan, which you know is Philadelphia area, and that remains the fact to the day. And just because the hybrid Europeans left the platforms, the people of the land or the true nationals don't leave the platform because we're the people of the land. So just because they violated, that doesn't excuse you, and that does not throw you off your political obligations, nor does that remove the obligations that was established by treaty and by constitution. Therefore, is the obligation of the nations of the earth legitimate to aid the Aboriginal Americans, enforcing those principles behind that constitution to remove all the genocidal operations and the criminal operations of the impersonators operating on our land at North America, pretending to be Americans and creating all these problems around the world at Midgard under the guise of the United States of America, the defunct corporation, which has been dissolved by their own hand. For the moment, I yield the floor and accept some questions.
Okay, well, I'll just ask this question because I saw it. I believe there was a question. Would you explain what fatwa means?
Fatwa means law. And so when you like if you're reading in the international Creole trade language, you would know as English or Anglis. So people's concepts that English belongs to the hybrid Europeans is false. It's actually Creole. It's a mixture of languages of the world, and it's actually a trade language. So when you're talking about English, you're talking about international African Phoenician trade linguistics, etc. It's made for trade. So fatwa comes from divine law, what you call hermetic law, based in moral and ethical trade principles. So fatwa means law.
And plenty of comments, some good and some very negative.
Well, I can expect that. You know, I mean, it's like this. Let's look this way.
I'm gonna respond to someone. This one that I put somebody in timeout. Now their response is by blocking words who ask questions, sad but not surprising. I should have blocked this one person a long time ago because what they're not asking questions, they're being divisive in the chat. And so
that's expected.
Yeah, they're being divisive. You're being divisive, and if you're sad and not surprised, you should be surprised that I haven't blocked you altogether. So you can take yourself off, or I can block you because you're divisive. You know you are. You're not asking questions. I don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with people asking questions, but I do have a problem with people causing division and divisiveness. We need to come together, and you need to know better. Thank you. So, let me see if there's any serious questions. I mean, seriously. I mean, if they don't agree with you, they don't need to be on. They don't even need. They don't have to agree. But to create divisiveness, and this individual is consistently divisive. Yes. They ask questions. They put these questions out to put doubt and schism in the chat. I've seen it for months, and I'm not. This is the first time I gave them a timeout.
Let's look at it realistic. Remember, this is what I've always said. And I'll say this to you all before. Even these statements that I made here, these are the congressional records. And I actually, Dr. J, I actually left a print and Photoshop the print and put it in here? Because now if they want to argue, they can argue with the record. They can argue with me. It's sort of like when you tell them the facts, they can be mad all they want to. It doesn't matter. However, this is the other thing that I wanted to also say. Because of the political dynamics that are taking place right now, particularly with the nations of the earth, their economies are collapsing because of this corruption that we just spoke of. And logically, even people among our own who are operative agents for the three-letter agencies, which they always operate, you understand? They will try, and this is interesting, how they always try to say the facts that I presented, these are the documents, these are facts, documents, that I made them up. And that's why I give reference so people can go find them themselves.
I mean, if you all have questions, I mean, look, please put your questions in so I can, ask them questions, so I can ask Grand Sheik the questions that you're asking. But the point I try to make is like a lot of the ones that are so disruptive and have so much to say, I find about, I just put a comment in there maybe about a half hour ago. These are ones who, when they first learned they were Moor and not Negro, Black, and color, they were probably looking at a Tarik Bey video from back in the day. They start, and then they get to a place where they smelling themselves and they feel like they know more than you, and you've never felt like you have it all. You never. We've gone over this before. It is not your position that people put you in a place that you don't even want to be. Never. You are a historian, and all of those, such as I'll give a shout out to, say, Lamont Maurice L., like him, who go on and take whatever they've heard from you and take it further. They're supposed to add your part to it, but you don't have to discredit the rock that you stood on to get to where you are. And that's the problem. That's why I believe we don't. But that's why I feel we're not getting anywhere, because we're fighting each other. I know it doesn't bother you.
It does. I'll tell you why it doesn't bother me.
It bothers me.
It doesn't. Don't let it bother you.
Yeah.
Remember what I said to you last year? I said, mask are off.
I know.
Because there's a spiritual side to this too. This one must be understood. The battle that's going on is people may try to take it personal, but you have really what you can say loosely, good and evil. Many of the people and some of the people who are trolls to these facts, because these are facts. It's not opinion, these are facts.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And they attack me for exposing the fact. Because many of them know that this information, as the people wake up, that a lot of people who have been using this platform for personal gain, as an example, or selling birthright issues which are not sellable. Because remember, nationality is free.
True.
Because it's birthright. And some people come into this movement to help liberate humanity, and some people come into this movement because they see an opportunity to generate fiat. And many of the people that you see that are critics have never put their neck on the line to help the people. Never, never, never.
Right.
And I already know, and I'm sure that you know when you look at these things, that people who take a stand on principle are attacked as if the principle is their opinion, when the principle exists before us all. And it's interesting, but it doesn't bother me because I already know that when you look at whether you're looking at Marcus Garvey, the photographer for him, the photographer for Martin Luther King, many of the Grand Sheiks that came around Noble Drawley were actually operating for the three-letter agencies, and which is the real reason. It's not that they didn't understand the movement. That's already there. You must know that the opposition is there.
There's always someone that's infiltration.
It's always, see, so, and it's not a matter of, a lot of people don't want this information out because it kills their economic platform. You got to remember, most of the people, if you really study the Moorish movement as an example, and you study the history, you'll see people come and they'll make a lot of fireworks, just like a 4th of July fireworks, and they'll blow out for a few years, and then you don't see them no more after they've burnt the people, stealing people's finances, and asking for donations, pretending that they love the people. And when the people find out some of this knowledge and recognize this is everybody's obligation, the birthright belongs to you already. No one's giving you anything. It already belongs to you. And when you begin to demonstrate methods or ways by which they can make their proper reclamation of their right of the state, etc., it upsets these people because they can't, how do you say, play master over servant games with them, and they can't tell them fundamental things that all of even the children should know, charging them hundreds of notes for stuff that Drawley laid down years ago. You'll see that one of our major problems have been is that the fundamental enforcements of treaty and constitution, which you look, when you say constitution, you're talking about not only the treaties, you're talking about the ancient traditions and customs. And I think a lot of times when people say the word constitution, they're looking at the Constitution for the United States as an individual document, on its own right, or they're looking at the Treaty of the Great Peace, Gisnawa, and principles like that, and or the Zodiac Constitution, rather than recognizing that the principles behind them or that undergird them or that are in the construction have one principal root, and it is unchanging. And that goes back to the ancient customs and traditions of our ancient mothers and fathers, and that is known as the common law. That's why when you talk about common law, constitutional law, they will use them in the same sentence. And so people are not to be limited to the Constitution for the United States as they see it. They must understand the nature of it, the spirit of it, is what pre-exists ancient. And that is the enforcement of the Constitution. So that includes even your knowledge of the cosmological nature found in religion, etc., for leading people back to fundamental principles of divine source or divine origin, etc. That is basically universal. So that's common law. That's still constitution. And this is why, like when you deal with people who really understand the original origin of religion, they have no what you will call they don't contest people because of their different religious or their different faiths, etc. What they do contest is the misrepresentation of all the religions by the politicians and the priesthood who have gone absolutely corrupt, who have misrepresented these platforms or the constitutions of man. And logically, people who have been benefiting from the ignorance of people, as you show people some of these documents that are at the basis of governmental operations, but it's not being exposed to the masses, you can understand why it kind of upsets people who have been what you call one-trick ponies, who really have no talent, no skills, and they come onto platforms of looking at the needs of the people, and they like a rabbit leech, sucking on the breast of mothers. If you get the point, and that's what these leeches usually are.
Well, the sad part is that there are many that come every week or every time we're on because they genuinely want to learn. They genuinely are waiting for that light bulb to come, to go off in them, so that they can go, I got it. And then you have all of the few,
but the few disruptors goes with the territory.
Yeah.
See, this is the deal.
And I don't even like having to do this, because this is taken away from what you could be teaching or sharing to talk about this divisiveness. Now, but it has to be said.
It has to be said. Well, that's fine. But I'm not a, you already know me. I know you know me.
You know me. I'm like, I jump in front of you.
See, because I'm looking at it like this. Anybody that really tries to help the people will be attacked. That's automatic. That's not, because you're dealing with people who really have dark spirits. You got to the idea that people think that some of these people or trolls don't understand or have a different opinion, it's not really that. It's that this information is a threat to platforms that they have constructed for economic benefit against an injured people. Rather than tell the people the truth, that most of your legal problems that have been befallen the people, and legal is distinguished from lawful. Legal is the process that's set forth by the members of the Circle Church and Chancery and people who've been working with them or for them, usually under what is known as the rules of civil procedure, to steal the rights of the people under the judicial powers or the judicial platform for the United States, which is why they will always say the Constitution of the United States distinguished. They won't say Constitution for the United States. And they'll always, just like, for instance, as an example, when you seen the hybrid Europeans abridge the rights of the Moors of some recent incidents, and you heard the hybrid Europeans write this term in their publishing, that they're prosecuting Moors under their legal names.
Oh, really?
What they're talking about is the nom de guerre operations distinguished from their rights as natural beings.
Here's a question. Here's something I just popped up real quick. I want to get to some of these questions. Let me put it up here. It says from Massive God Squad, Taj 3 Bay, why are the Albions telling people in order to win their mock kangaroo courts, you are better off using Bouvier's law instead of using the Black's Law dictionary?
Well, Bouvier's is in fact, you got Bouvier's and Bell's too. And keep in mind, when you're looking at Bouvier's, that's basically the fundamental background that the Congress actually used. But when we do go to Black's Law, because remember, it's ancient and modern. That's not dismissed because of Bouvier's. It's because the different statuses and phrases that we present in there is to show people proof that they're being misrepresented, that the people are being misrepresented.
In Black's Law?
Yes.
Here. Okay, let me get to another question for you. Somebody asked.
And it's again, even like as an example, when the people continue to use the term colored person and think it means an endearment of African people. This is again why, as an example, why we'll use Black's Law to show them that these people are operating fraudulently, and that when you follow them, that you're giving them or giving up your birthright, assuming positions or terms that are actually presented to destroy you or to hurt you, and not to preserve your right.
Here's a question that was up here. It says, "What are we learning?" He repeats himself, and I'm going to kind of respond to that before you do, because one, we haven't gotten it right. We haven't gotten it yet, and there's always new people that are coming into
and it's mostly
this knowledge.
For the new people.
It's mostly for the new one, and it just reinforces what others know, because at some point something should be activated within us that pushes us to the next level. And if that be the case, then we should probably move off the chat and be somewhere building up the new knowledge we have to give to people.
Now, this is where there are people all around the country, study groups around the country, and outside of this jurisdiction in other countries, who have gotten the concepts and who are studying. Like, as an example, when we do these sessions at the House of Awakening Minds, you have what you call snippet information or vignette information. The confined or refined studies would be done in your study groups, which is again why I give you reference points, so that you all can gather information, restock your libraries, and do the studies yourselves to enforce the things that you need to learn logically. And it's no different than, like, say, for instance, if you're listening to a radio station, or if you go to say if you're going to a channel, etc., on a site, you're going to get limited information, or you're going to get points of reference, and this is for people to take the information and then to cross-reference it and then do research for themselves. Because logically, as an example, when we did a session not long ago, I talked about Article 39, police powers concerning marriage licenses, right? Now, if we go in detail without what you call a study class, you'll never do that. It would never happen. It can't happen. However, if you go research and study yourself, a lesson on that or the details on that, other than snippets of information, would take hours, and it would not be even practical. For the most part, you wouldn't even have a platform to really comprehend what was going on, because you'd get lost in the sauce. So the deal of it is to get people interested to start studying again, to restock their libraries, etc. To because most of the time when we're talking, you'll see that if I attack something, I'll attack misconceptions that are established because of misinformation, and then direct people to other information so that they can liberate themselves. Meanwhile, even over the years, a lot of people we've shared information with, who really had nothing to offer to people, have taken this information and created what I would agree are, on the surface, appearing good, platforms, but really not to liberate the people, just to make finance for themselves.
And that's the thing
so
that we
people don't grow, which is why some things have to be redundantly.
Which is no different than the so-called say medical industry. It's a business, so they're never.
They're not trying to liberate.
Right, they're never trying to get people healed and well. They want to keep you needy, and
they want to keep the people
for the greedy.
Right. This is the deal. When you look at the Moorish Divine National Movement, the nature of the Moorish Divine National Movement is the liberation of humanity. Now, this is the point. What if you pay attention to some of the processes that are used by some, particularly some of the people who are angry that this information is being shared, if you notice that most of the time you've never seen them actually come out and aid anyone.
No, but they want to know why you haven't, like, because you're God. You're supposed to do everything.
No, because that's not the point. Because the exercise of rights belong to the people. Doesn't belong. See the cons, and this is even back to the misconception that have made our people in this dependency mentality, where they're looking for leaders, and this is not the age of leaders. This is the age of liberation of humanity. This is the age where every man, woman, and child must confess their own. And while people say that, they have been trained to the contrary. They're, even in psychology, they're looking for a sacrificial lamb and then getting mad when you don't present a sacrificial lamb for them.
Yes.
Because they don't want the responsibility of taking their proper places among the affairs of men.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions that have asked if they could get your book, and they want to know how they can get the book that you're reading out that you wrote. And I know we keep saying that we're really working on getting some reprints so that we can make them available directly.
All the Adeptus manuscript notes, because most of the ones that we have published were heavily edited deliberately for editorial purposes, for publishing purposes, etc. Because I would not take payoff and let the mainstream publishers publish it with the demands of editing certain information out. So most of the stuff we had desktop published for years. However, because of the printing equipment, limited printing equipment, a lot of the
binding,
mainly the binding, and so we kept most of the points of the vital points of information in. But what I want to do, and I've been working in between to put all my old notes and going into the old Macs and going to my old notes, even some of the machinery that the old, as y'all remember, floppy drives and stuff like that, and even going through some of the stuff that was damaged in the fire in 205, etc. And actually, my sister's old Mac with the floppy disk to retrieve some of my notes. Although some of the notes were burned, there was enough to actually retrieve a lot of the original stuff. And we're going to have the sister
Cynthia Martinell.
Yeah, so many of you know the Honorable Sister Martinell. Yeah, Cindy, we call Cindy. That's that beautiful sister in Texas area. She's going to be publishing much of this stuff. We'll make it available to you. But I have to also say to you all, and many of you know that that I work, you know, and my time is so limited, so constricted. However, you know, we'll be making it available through the House of Reawakening Minds to you in trust within this year. Though some of it we have actually done over. I haven't presented to Sister Cindy yet, but I will. I'll particularly with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I will.
But the ones you've used that they're asking.
But know this too. Don't be surprised at the heavy opposition that you'll be getting, because really a lot of people are really upset that the people at large, and this goes for hybrids and Asiatics, are angry because the people are waking up, because most of the political platforms that have been operative on the earth, particularly in contemporary times, are pretty much all of them are based, except for a few, are based in frauds. All of them. And logically, as people wake up, you know, a lot of institutions will and are collapsing, because they need you to be ignorant. They need you to be dependent. They need you to be subservient. They need you to be dumbed down. And this is why they're very hostile when information comes out, because you also discover, as you become more erudite in the operations of government, this is also why they don't teach civics, because you'll recognize more people that you've been encountering in the name of your economics and politics. More people are your enemy than you'll ever imagine, and many people that you've trusted have never been your friend. You're going to discover you have a lot of associates and very few friends. However, I suggest that you be strong, be firm, seek out principle, and one of the things that that a lot of people are set as people become awake, they start becoming more independent. And as you already know, Dr. Naila, as people have come to our classes, even as we've been working over the House of Reawakening Minds for the last 11 years, that we've encouraged people to take this information and start their own study groups, and they have done so, and have helped themselves, their families, and other people. We don't want dependent or dumb, subservient people. We want people who are capable of creating, of taking this information further, and particularly, but majorly, this is the major issue with me, is for them to recognize that most of the institutions that they've been looking for a remedy are actually their enemy. And logically, it upsets a lot of people, because many of our people work for them. As an example, many people who have been sucking or conning our people out of thousands of notes, you know, who actually work for law firms, which are really members of the Roman Curia. And most of you'll see most of them will present issues of law from the rules of civil procedure, which are used actually by the Bar Association to have been stealing the people's rights. This is why the people don't have due process. This is why people don't have speedy trials. This is why they will try our people by foreign hybrid Europeans when they're supposed to be having trials by people of their own peers. This is why they ignore Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution, which enforces the treaties, and diversity is always supposed to be maintained and enforced, and you don't see any of these people who are talking about our people's rights and liberties ever talking about consular venue. As a matter of fact, you'll see more of them talking against it than for it. But when you read the Constitution and the treaties yourself, you'll see the obligations that I've just read from here. You know, and it's no secret. Well, why do you think they get offended when I bring these things up? Because it exposes them. I'm not personally against them. They can do what they want to do. They're doing what their masks are being pulled off, and they think that I'm attacking them personally. I'm not. You know, the information is attacking them because they're frauds, and it is that. You know, the deal of it is they've created this idea that people have to pay for their rights. And people are so used to their rights having been converted into privileges by the occupational de facto persons claiming to be government and people who have been working for them and helping them exercise fraud against the people while pretending to be for the people and pretending to teach law. The real deal is that they stay away from the common law because they don't want the people to know that the common law is nature's law and nature's God. So when you talk about Allah, all universal law, you're talking about nature's God or what you call hermetic principles, etc. This is in nature. And this is again on how cleverly and deceptively they've misrepresented, you know, Islam and all the religions to the people and giving them a negative face, etc. By turning the people away from actually the forces and the forces of nature, the truth of nature and creation itself, from which these principles actually are derived. That's why they don't teach common law. And so, for those of you who really study jurisprudence, you know that common law and constitutional law are looked at as synonymous, and not just what you would call the individual constitution document that you've been told is the Constitution of the United States, for the principles exist before that document, as you've been shown even existed. It's ancient.
Here's a question, and I'm sure this person legitimately does not know, and there may be others that don't know. You know, somebody finds out they're not Negro, black, and colored, and then they start hearing, you know, about this, you know, Noble Drew Ali. There's a question that says, who was Noble Drew Ali? And
yes. Noble Drew Ali.
For those who don't know.
Yes. Noble Drew Ali was one among us, among Anyanwea. Anyanwea you would call Cherokee. And you know that the Naga and the Dravidians or Phoenicians of the West or the Maghreb have been mistagged in history to color the history. So we're often referred to as Indians or Indians of the West or West Indians, etc., which is a really a false connotation, because the people of the true Americans or Al Moroccans are really Phoenicians, etc., or Africans. And this is why you'll see them misrepresent the central Almanac, or what you call Old Mexum. They'll call it Olmec, and they will always try to bury the history so that the people don't know or have a misconception that you're standing on Africa. And ancient Omexum is the ancient name for Africa, and Africa is the ancient name or the modern name for America, and America is the contemporary name for Africa and Omexum. It's not a secret with scholars. It has been kept from the people.
And Noble Drew Ali.
Oh yeah, Noble Drew Ali. Now, among the many people who know the history, whenever someone would speak of the real history of the people here, they would be murdered or persecuted under dumb diverses. And the
What's dumb diverses?
Dumb diverses is a Roman Catholic Church bulla under the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors.
And what's a bulla?
A bulla is like an edict coming from the bishopric led by the Pope of Rome.
Would it be like an executive order?
Yes.
All right.
All right. And so you would particularly look at many of the bullas that come about, particularly after the Napoleonic Wars, particularly after they captured Roma, or the African popes, the ancient African popes, and took over and corrupted the ancient African history and culture. They were really usually presented as African or Egyptian, Babylonian culture, and they will take the dark side magic, or they take everything that is represented of African Asiatic culture and call it demonic and twist it.
So you were saying that up to a certain point, though, people weren't able to tell the truth, but then
Noble Drawley was one in the what you would call modern era, one of the first presenters for the Aboriginal people of America to come in what is known as proper person. In your proper person, not under the brands, not under the nom de guerre, such as Negro, Black, or Colored Indian, but being the true blood American, Al-Moroccan, and present the argument for the enforcement of all the pre-existing treaties and the Constitution, for protecting the estates and the rights and the properties and the natural being or persons of the sentient men and women, Moorish Americans, distinguished people of the land, from the Inquisition operations or the abuses, etc. And he established the old Canaanite temple officially in 1913 to reinstall or reactivate knowledge, history, culture, spirituality, and a social political platform for the restoration of the lost estate of the Moors of North America.
Now he was a young man. So where would he have?
27 years old.
Where did he get such knowledge? How did he know that this existed? That these things have been. Yeah.
Well, number one, it's not just him. It was known by many. I think a lot of times when people look at the history of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, because he was one of the primary ones who came in what you call public platform to restore the knowledge to the people, so much emphasis is put on him. But you also have Drew Solly and many others who were actually working even with Noble Drawley, establishing the old Canaanite temple for the restoration of the true history and the knowledge of the true estate of the Moors. But from a principle of international law, he, in the modern era, was the first to establish what would be called legitimately an honorable social, spiritual, and political platform for the restoration of the birthrights, history, and culture of the true heirs of the Americas, the true Aboriginal peoples of America, in a modern period or modern structure, and reestablishing Islam to be taught on the land which had been restricted since, like Philip and the rest of the popes of Rome, under the threats of death, which is why people, particularly the people of the land, had limited knowledge of Islam being actually in the West. They thought it was just on the eastern side of Africa, when it's actually ancient culture here. So Noble Drawley was, you can be considered in not the first, but the first in what you would call an open political, social political established platform by which the information in the history and the culture had been propagated actually on a solid and established platform in North America. That's where he is credited. But the knowledge was known by many.
So he was, but he, he's called prophets. Was I think
that's why he's referred to as the prophet.
And he said he came to us
yes.
But he said he was universal.
He said, "Come, all ye Asiatics of North America, learn the truth about your nationality and your birthright. You're not Negro, black people, colored, or Ethiopians. Come and learn of your ancient mothers and fathers, ancient and divine creed. Come and link yourselves back with the families of nations, so you can see it is not only your true religious heritage and a lot of your ancient culture. It is the political platform by which the re-association with the nations of the earth were to be made. But you also notice that part of the activity has actually been condemned even by people who claim to be studiers of Noble. So you understand that the conflict, the sellouts, and what you'll see many who are in a divisive platform where you see where that comes from. And he also reminded the Moors so that the Moors would not be get caught into what you call this tunnel vision type mentality. He said, the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you would go back to sleep. That's so that the Moors would not get caught in these, tunnel vision pockets, thinking that they had it all. And he said, be careful, Moors. Some of your own people will be trying, with turbans and fezzes, will be trying to put you back in slavery, which means, because he also knows the real history here, that many Moors were slaveholders. So a lot of descendants of Moors still have that tyrannical personality and spirit, because though the bodies are new, the spirits don't die. And so that's why you have a lot of people that come in that as soon as you start talking constitutional principles, you'll see them getting angry really quick. Because when if people get the spirit of the Constitution principles in their thought processes, they already understand that what fake government is. They'll already have a comprehension when someone is using positions of authority to steal their birthrights, and then they would rebel. This is again why you see even a lot of Moors, as soon as you start saying Constitution, you'll see them get mad real quick. See, because
they'll say that it belongs to quote unquote white men.
The white man is you. Even that. The white man, black man paradigm. This is back to the whole point of people needing to know about the Whitmore Party, which why we have to keep bringing it up. It's sort of like this, Dr. J. You know how some things we have to repeat redundantly because you see that many of the people are still being deceived by their so-called black leaders, and you see them still using the nom-de-guerre terms to their own detriment and not knowing that it's detrimental. And you'll see people knowing that it's false, but they'll continue to use it as if it has no injury, knowing that it makes the people not descendable. Where the people will in 1 minute tell the people that they're Moors, and they'll go right back to the black codes, and then to promote it. They really don't want that to die. See, it's sort of like they really don't want some of these problems fixed, because then they won't have what you would call their hands in the people's pockets. And many of them are angry at me because as you already know, you've been around me for years, I don't try to make people followers. I always try to give people information that liberates them, and that puts them on a path where they start thinking for themselves and then take this information further. However, what I do stay with is certain fundamental principles. When I see that the people's concepts are below a certain grade, you see me bring them up to that grade, but you won't see me try to hand feed them after that. You won't see me trying to make them what you call followers, because then it gets corrupted. You want them, like if you're going to teach somebody carpentry, you don't want to be going behind them every 5 minutes holding a hammer for them. They need to learn to hold their own hammer. No different than, like when you have your offspring. You have a joy feeding your baby. You know, the mother has a joy feeding the baby her breast. After the baby gets a certain age, mom says, you got to come off the breast and here's a spoon, and I ain't holding it for you. You know, it's the same principle. And if you really look at the problems with our people, particularly in North America, they're still in that mentality of looking for someone to follow, as opposed to learning to follow and maintain certain principles, then coming together in strength on principle and getting things done, and not interjecting their personal agendas. But again, you still have people that are parasitic and narcissistic that come along, and that's part of our problem. You have a lot of narcissistic and parasitic people who only look at this platform as a source of what they call for themselves income, when that's not the purpose of this platform. The purpose of this platform is actually the liberation of humanity. However, people also recognize that there's so much injury out there, and you'll see them still trying to do what the Barristers Association did, trying to seize upon the people under the guise of helping them, when they're really trying to make the people subservient to them. And they're angry because I don't support those type of people. Although a lot of those type of people have come around me. And I want you all to know that though I associate or I know some of these people, we are not like them at all.
So there's a couple questions that came up twice, and probably by the same person, but they were asking, individual rather, but they're not a person, but they were asking about solutions. Let me see if I can find that one to bring it up. It may not let me go back up there to it. My apology to the one who kept putting that in there. Folks are asking how we come together, how we unify.
It will come by the nature. This is how I was going to come. Remember, I've always said, I said our people will come together, and not because there's a lack of information, really, and not because certain truths that are needed have not been told. They will come together out of pain. And the reason they'll come together out of pain is because they're going to have to accept some of the things that I've just said in past and present. And that is accepted the fact that many people who came into this movement are in it for their pockets. They're not really in it for liberating the people. And you're going to have to sever them. I can't make you sever them. You keep supporting them, and therefore it keeps on stagnating yourselves, because it promotes dependency. True liberation doesn't promote dependency. You know, when you look at the term in the Septuaginta, or in the Bible, where it says every man, every woman, and every child must confess their own, that means you must be capable of claiming your own birthright. You must be competent. And this is why certain things over the years you'll see that we have redundantly spoken of. At the same time, for those who have been closer to us, we've had what you call longer conversations where we could go into what you would call more detail, but platforms, or what you would call bullet point platforms of lectures, can't accommodate that, because you need what you call actual study class. And I'm appreciative that brothers like Maurice Eel,
Lamont Maurice,
yeah, Sister Tracy Gay, Gail Day, have, Light and others have started study classes of their own. Rama Eel, many of the.
Is that the one that I just blocked?
Yeah, many of your brothers and sisters in the Moore Science Temple, Sister Deanna, Chicago,
Sister Chung Diana, yes, out in California, yes.
Brother Nature Eel and Nika Eel, Moore Science Temple, Grace Hill, Moore Science Temple, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Many of them have established school systems, within the structure of their temple according to the prophet's instructions, and are teaching what you call detail information. Or logically, when you have refined studies where you have more of what you call controlled dispensation of information, a lot of more details will come out. And of course, that would be an extended education to establish erudition, which is very good and necessary. But you can't dispense a lot of what you call refined shop-like information in a platform like this. That's impractical. In other words, instead of our people establishing all these marching and praying organizations and funding them, you need to reestablish your own schools. You know, just like Grand Sheikah's Daria Bay, she established a school. It's been running for years for teaching the children online. That would be more refined, etc. And so it's Moors out there who've been doing the work. And they've been attacked by newcomers who have really done nothing, who are just in it for their pockets. And usually the trolls usually come from those sources. That's the truth.
They need to stop trolling and start getting to work. But like you said, many of them work, you know, they're agents. So they can't do nothing. That is their work.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the
and
work.
They really, see, it's like this. You know, like, it's sort of like this. We try to share information that people stay away from, that comes in the area of real wake-up calls to get people courage enough to let things go, because people have a tendency they don't like what Rome does to them, but they're unwilling to let Rome go. And they try to serve two camps or two masters. And that has been the problem with most of our people. You know, like our people will say, you know, what do we do to promote unity? It's very simple. Let Rome go. You know, but you know that people aren't willing to do that. So it's on their own terms.
But don't you think we're being forced, though?
Yeah, well, that's where the pain comes in.
We're being forced because of all of the... Now, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but you know, a couple of days ago, because you heard the conversation, or a day or so ago, with someone who was off the continent in Southeast Asia.
Yes, we know.
In Southeast Asia. And I will be coming to you all listeners for some support. I got to figure out how to do it so that it won't raise a lot of what. But this particular individual is I advertise them here. They have a school there in Southeast Asia. And when I tell you that we think we have it bad here,
no, you don't.
This brother has not eaten since August 22nd, I want to say.